The shelter smelled like bleach and hopelessness when I walked in that afternoon. 2 years to the day since I buried Rusty. Just looking, I lied to the receptionist, my boots squeaking on the linoleum. Then I saw him. Kennel 19. A grizzled mutt with one milky eye sat statue still behind the bars, his matted fur the color of storm clouds. No barking, no tail wagging, just that tarnished brass tag glinting in the fluorescent light. If you're reading this, I was loved once. My hand was signing the adoption papers before my brain caught up. Lisa, the no-nonsense shelter worker, crossed her arms. That's Reggie. 6 months here. She kicked a mop bucket aside. Longest resident we got. When I crouched down, his nose twitched, not at me, but at the jingle of my keys. Only reason we haven't put him down, Lisa muttered, and I saw it. The faintest flinch in his ragged ears at that word. Down. Then, one single, deliberate wag of that scraggly tail. Like he'd been saving it for this exact moment. My wallet was out before she finished saying, he's not house-trained. 3:47 a.m. The numbers glowed red on my bedside clock as another floorboard creaked. Reggie hadn't slept, just patrolled the house all night sniffing door frames, furniture corners, the space beneath the couch. Now he stood frozen in front of Rusty's framed photo on the bookshelf, his cloudy eye reflecting the moonlight. I flipped his tag under my phone's glare, and there it was. Faint but unmistakable on the reverse side. Tucker, RR 1437W County Line. An address. A real name. The coffee I'd been drinking turned to acid in my stomach. This wasn't just some stray. Someone had loved him enough to leave a trail home. The leash felt wrong in my hand, too light without Rusty's eager pulling. But Reggie? He walked like a convict who knew the route to the execution chamber. No straining. No panting. Just resigned precision. When I opened the truck door, he leaped in like he'd done it 1,000 times before, settling passenger side with military posture. He's not like other dogs, Lisa had warned. Now I understood. As we pulled onto the highway, his nose pressed against the glass, tracking road signs with eerie focus. Not the behavior of a confused stray. This was a dog with a destination in mind. 3 weeks. Not one bark. Not even a whimper. Dr. Brooks ran gloved hands over Reggie's ribs during the checkup. See these ridges? Old fractures. Her penlight flashed across his teeth. These molars were extracted. Crudely. That night, a blood-curdling howl tore me from sleep. I stumbled outside to find Reggie in the moonlight, his paws bleeding from frantic digging beneath a maple tree. Not random scratching, precise excavation. Like he was unearthing something specific. Something he buried there in another life. The neighbor's motion light flashed on, illuminating the fresh hole. Empty. But the way Reggie stared into it? That hole wasn't empty to him. The digital clock read 3:17 a.m. when the sniffing started. Not the curious snuffling of a new dog, methodical, investigative. I cracked an eye to see Reggie's silhouette pass my doorway, heading not toward my bed, but to the hook where Rusty's collar still hung. His wet nose touched the frayed nylon. A whine so soft it barely existed. Then, the metallic click of his teeth gently lifting it down. I watched, paralyzed, as he carried it to his bed like sacred cargo, arranging it in a perfect circle before lying inside it. Not stealing. Curating. Preserving a memory he shouldn't have known existed. I'd kept Rusty's orthopedic bed vacuum sealed in the garage for 2 years, couldn't bear to look at it. That first morning, I unzipped the plastic with shaking hands. Reggie watched from the doorway, his head cocked at the exact angle Rusty used to do. 2 slow circles. One testing paw. Then he collapsed into it with a sigh that seemed to come from his marrow, his body melting into the memory foam. His cloudy eye locked onto mine, and in that moment, I knew this wasn't random. That sigh wasn't relief. It was recognition. The hair on my neck stood up. The garden hose water ran brown for a full minute before the real Reggie emerged. Not gray, golden amber, like bourbon in sunlight, with white streaks across his shoulders like battle scars. He stood statue still through 3 rounds of shampoo, his eyes closed like a prisoner enduring interrogation. But when the last rinse revealed his true coat, that's when it happened. One violent shake that soaked my jeans, followed by a wag. A real, full-body wag that sent water droplets flying in a glittering arc. That's when I saw the ring of scar tissue around his neck, too precise to be an accident. Someone had chained this dog. Hard. And long. Dr. Brooks' latex gloves snapped as she pointed to the x-ray. See these hairline fractures? Ribs 3 through 7. Her finger moved to his mouth. These premolars? Yanked out with pliers. Reggie lay motionless on the stainless steel table, his breathing steady despite the horrors she catalogued. And this? She parted the fur behind his left ear. A raised, jagged scar in the shape of a J. My coffee cup shattered on the linoleum. That wasn't random abuse. That was branding. The vet's voice dropped. This dog didn't run away. He was discarded. Reggie chose that moment to lick her wrist, as if forgiving the entire human race. The park playground erupted with shrieking kids, their sneakers kicking up wood chips. Reggie's leash went taut as he froze mid-step. Then it happened. His entire body compressed like a spring, belly scraping concrete, ears pinned flat. Not aggression, not fear. Submission. Pure, conditioned submission. The toddler barreling toward us might as well have been swinging a bat. I dropped to my knees, shielding him with my body. "You're safe now," I whispered into his matted fur. His response? A single, tentative lick to my wedding ring. First voluntary affection in 37 days. That's when the dam broke. Not for him. For me. Hot tears hit his scarred muzzle as I finally understood. This dog didn't need training. He needed witness. Needed someone to finally see what had been done to him. And now that I had, there was no going back. Midnight. My thumb rubbed raw against the brass until the address materialized like a ghost. RR 1437W County Line. Reggie's head snapped up from my lap, nostrils flaring at some scent memory. The truck keys jangled in my shaking hand. This wasn't just some engraving. It was a breadcrumb trail. But here's what kept me awake. Why leave away home if you never wanted him found? Unless he wasn't supposed to get lost in the first place. The digital clock blinked 3:03 a.m. when I made the decision. We were going tomorrow. Gravel popped under tires as we turned onto County Line Road. White farmhouse. Blue shutters. Porch swing creaking in the wind. Then movement. An old man froze mid-step, his cane clattering to the boards. Reggie went rigid. Not Reggie anymore. His whole body remembered another name. The screen door slammed as the man stumbled forward, voice cracking. Jake. My blood turned to ice. That wasn't the dog's name. That was a dead boy's name. Reggie bolted from the truck like a bullet, but not toward the old man, to the weathered doghouse beside the barn, to something buried beneath it. Frank Wilson's gnarled hands trembled as they touched sun-bleached paint on the doghouse. Tucker's retreat in childish letters. My boy Jake built this, he whispered. Cancer took him 4 years back. Reggie, no, Tucker, was frantically digging at the base, paws bleeding in the hard earth. Frank's tears hit the dirt. After the funeral, Tucker just vanished. Like he knew. Then the shovel struck metal. A rusted lunchbox. Inside? A child's baseball glove, chewed at the edges. Tucker's whine pierced the air, a sound I'd never heard before. The sound of a dog remembering. Frank's arthritic fingers traced the glove stitches. Jake's last game. Tucker carried this home in his mouth like a trophy. The lunchbox contained Polaroids too, a grinning boy with amber eyes identical to Tucker's clear one. My stomach dropped. This wasn't just any dog. This was a living memorial. Frank pointed to the freshly turned earth near the oak. Buried Jake's jersey there last month. Tucker must have smelled it through 6 feet of dirt. The dog was now lying flat on the grave, his muzzle pressed to the soil. Not mourning. Listening. Like he expected an answer. The farmhouse kitchen smelled of burnt coffee as Frank slid a newspaper across the table. Local man arrested in dogfighting ring. The date? 1 week after Jake's funeral. The photo showed a snarling pit bull with that same jagged J brand behind its ear. My coffee cup rattled in its saucer. Jake's uncle, Frank spat. Found Tucker in his barn with modifications. He wouldn't elaborate. Didn't need to. The scars told the story. Tucker hadn't run away. He'd been taken. And when he escaped, maybe the grief at home was too much. Maybe he thought Jake was still out there somewhere. Still waiting. Ethan Parker's fingers trembled on the book cover. 7 years old and hadn't spoken a word in school since his dad deployed. The librarian sighed. We've tried everything. Tucker, I couldn't call him Reggie anymore, walked past the colorful beanbag straight to Ethan, flopping down with his head on the boy's Velcro shoes. Minute passed. Then 2. Then, a whisper. D-Dog. The librarian dropped her clipboard. Tucker didn't react. Just sighed like this was expected. Ethan's small hand touched the scar behind Tucker's ear. Hurts. Another first. Tucker licked the boy's fingers once. Very deliberately. The dam broke. Can I read to him? Week 3 at the library and Ethan was reading full sentences, his stutter smoothing out when Tucker rested a paw on his knee. The boy's mom filmed secretly from the stacks as he sounded out frog and toad with growing confidence. But here's what no one noticed except me. Tucker's ears twitched at every corrected word, like he was keeping track. During Where the Wild Things Are, Ethan gasped. Ms. Laurie. Tucker's following the words with his nose. We all saw it then, that scarred muzzle moving fractionally left to right beneath the text. Not possible. Unless Jake had taught him to read along too. Logan Wright didn't touch people. His IEP said so in bold letters. But when Tucker lay down in the calm corner, something unprecedented happened. 20 minutes of full body contact. Logan's fingers buried in golden fur. His aide wept. Then came the miracle. Logan spoke directly to Tucker. You, sad, like me. The dog responded by rolling onto his back, a vulnerability he'd never shown before. Logan laid his head on Tucker's scarred belly. Two broken creatures speaking without words. The principal snapped photos for the district newsletter. I snapped one for Frank Wilson. Jake would have loved this, he'd text back later. Mike Reynolds' PTSD service dog growled when we entered the rec room. Tucker ignored him, beelining for the most withdrawn vet in the corner, Tara Collins, who hadn't participated in months. He dropped a tennis ball in her lap. When she didn't move, he nudged it closer. I don't play, she muttered. Tucker cocked his head, then deliberately rolled the ball toward the group circle. Tara exhaled sharply. Fine. The vets erupted when she joined them. Mike watched Tucker work the room. That's no pet, he told me later. That's a combat medic in a fur coat. Maple pine smelled like antiseptic and regret. We almost skipped Walter Harris's room. Nonverbal dementia, the nurse warned. But Tucker pulled me inside. Walter's vacant eyes tracked the dog as he jumped onto the bed, strictly forbidden, and laid his head on the old man's chest. Then, a rasp. Sergeant. The nurse dropped her med cart. Walter's gnarled hand found the scar behind Tucker's ear. Korea. 1952, messenger dogs. The words came haltingly after 3 silent years. Tucker licked the man's wrist exactly twice. A code. Walter wept. The nurse whispered what we all knew. That's no random visit. They've met before. The first package appeared at dawn. Homemade peanut butter biscuits wrapped in butcher paper. Then came the hand-knitted sweater, too small, the engraved name tag Tucker in cursive, and finally, the jar of organic honey with a note. For the hero dog. I caught Mrs. Henderson from 3 doors down sneaking over at sunrise. He sat with my granddaughter during her asthma attack, she confessed, pointing to Tucker's fresh haircut, clearly not my work. The neighborhood had quietly adopted him. The gifts weren't for me. They were tribute payments to the scarred guardian who patrolled our streets like a silent sentinel. The headline brought chaos. Warrior dog heals community. Suddenly, strangers lined our sidewalk with cameras and crying toddlers. Tucker retreated under the porch for 3 days. Then the email started. That's my stolen dog, claimed one. We had to put our dog down because of yours, screamed another. The worst? A handwritten letter with a photo of a branded pit bull. Jake's uncle wants what's his. I burned it. That night, Tucker dug up Rusty's old chew toy from the garden and placed it by my pillow. A warning. A weapon. The game had changed. 3:17 a.m. The motion light flashed. Tucker's bed was empty, the back gate ajar. I found his tags in the dirt, deliberately unbuckled. The police found blood on the fence post. My scream woke the block. Then, a whimper from the storm drain. Tucker emerged dragging his hind legs, muzzle crusted with someone else's blood. Clutched in his teeth, a torn sleeve reeking of cigarette smoke and motor oil. The vet found no injuries. This isn't his blood, she confirmed, handing me the evidence bag. We both knew what it meant. Tucker hadn't been taken. He'd been hunting. Dr. Brooks' voice cracked through the phone. Get here now. The waiting room smelled like antiseptic and dread. Tucker's EKG showed erratic spikes. Not a medical condition, but a stress response. He's been holding it together for you, she whispered as his breathing slowed. I pressed my forehead to his. You can go home, boy. Jake's waiting. His tail thumped once at the name. Then, a miracle. The monitor steadied. Dr. Brooks gasped. He's fighting. Tucker's clear eye locked onto mine with terrifying intensity. He wasn't done yet. There was still one grave left to visit. October leaves crunched underfoot as Tucker limped toward his digging spot. No urgency now, just purpose. He collapsed in the hollow he'd made, nose pressed to earth. I finally understood. This wasn't random. The maple stood exactly 1437 paces from our porch, the same number as the farm address. My shovel struck metal at 18 inches. The time capsule contained Rusty's favorite ball, my wedding band, lost years ago, and a note in my late wife's handwriting. Love finds its way home. Tucker exhaled against my knee as the sun set. His job was done. Mine was just beginning. Main Street looked like autumn exploded overnight. Orange ribbons fluttered from every mailbox, storefront, and bicycle handle, the exact shade of Tucker's fur. The elementary school chorus sang, "You've got a friend," off-key outside the vet's office. Even Jake's uncle's parole officer left a ribbon on our fence. But the real gut punch? Frank Wilson standing stiff in his army uniform by the doghouse memorial, saluting as we carried Tucker's blanket-covered body past. The town didn't mourn a pet that day. They buried a war hero. And when the first shovelful of dirt hit the pine box, every dog in the county howled. The mailbox overflowed for weeks. Your dog sat with my suicidal daughter at the bus stop. He licked my chemo port when no one else would touch me. But the blue envelope destroyed me, postmarked from Korea. Walter Harris's spidery handwriting. That wasn't our first life together. In 1952, a messenger dog with one cloudy, I saved my unit. Same scars. Same deliberate lick. Tell Tucker Semper Fi. I read it at his grave as autumn leaves fell in slow motion. The dates aligned perfectly. Some souls don't just cross paths, they circle back like seasons. Lisa called it a coincidence. I knew better. The Brindle Mastiff mix had been surrendered with one request. His name is Sergeant. He ignored every kennel, until spotting Tucker's newspaper photo on Lisa's desk. Then came the sound, not a bark, but a perfect replica of Tucker's distinctive howl. When I knelt to check, there it was, a faded J brand behind his right ear. Lisa crossed herself. "You're taking him, right?" Sergeant leaned into my grip exactly like Tucker used to. The shelter paperwork asked reason for adoption. I wrote one word, duty. Sergeant's medical chart read like a horror novel. Broken teeth, cigarette burns, a BB pellet lodged near his spine. The vet said he'd never trust humans. She was wrong. On day 3, he dragged Tucker's old blanket to the maple tree and howled at the exact pitch that made my neighbor's motion light flicker. The next morning, I found him sleeping with Logan Wright's lost teddy bear clutched in his jaws. Not chewing. Guarding. Lisa texted me the shelter update. 3 senior dogs adopted this week. They're calling it the Tucker effect. Sergeant licked my phone screen approvingly. The mission continued. The ground stays warm there. Not figuratively. Thermometers prove it. Kids leave baseball gloves and spelling tests in the hollow. Veterans rub dirt on their PTSD scars. Some nights when the wind blows just right, the motion light clicks on for no reason, illuminating fresh paw prints in the dew. Sergeant always sniffs them before sitting at attention. The town thinks I'm crazy for still bringing Tucker's favorite biscuits. But they don't see what happens after I walk away. Don't notice how the treats are always gone by morning. And they definitely don't hear what sounds like one quiet wag in the leaves. 2:47 a.m. A sound like rending metal tore through the house. Sergeant launched from the bed, knocking over the lamp. I found him vibrating at the back door, his howl syncopated in 3 precise bursts, a pattern. The neighbor's security footage showed why. A shadowy figure fleeing our yard, dropping what the police later identified as dogfighting paraphernalia. But here's what turned my blood to ice. Sergeant hadn't howled in warning. He'd howled in recognition. The animal control officer confirmed it. That's a combat alert. Military dogs are trained to sound like this when they send explosives or familiar enemies. The envelope was slipped into Sergeant's therapy vest after story hour. No signature, just a child's shaky handwriting. Asterisk, Mr. Carter, your first dog saved my brother. The doctor said Jason couldn't hear us in his coma. But when Tucker put his head on Jason's chest for 11 minutes, the heart monitor changed. Jason woke up saying a golden soldier told him to come back. Mom says I can't tell people. But Sergeant does the same head tilt Tucker did when we read numbers. Our secret. Asterisk, the note included a photo, my dead wife's hospice nurse holding Tucker's paw through Jason's ICU curtains. A timeline that shouldn't overlap. Dr. Brooks closed the exam room door before showing me the x-ray. See this metal fragment along Sergeant's spine? That's not a BB gun pellet. Her pointer tapped the screen. This is shrapnel from an M67 grenade. And this? She switched images. His dental work? Those are military-grade titanium implants. My coffee cup slipped. But Tucker was just, I'm not talking about Tucker. she interrupted. I ran Sergeant's microchip. Classified Marine Corps records. Adopted out after tours in Afghanistan. She handed me a blacked-out document with one visible line. Subject shows uncanny ability to identify IEDs and reincarnated handlers. The date? 6 months before Tucker died. Sergeant's claws scraped obsessively at the basement's concrete floor for 3 nights straight. When I finally broke through, the rusted ammo box contained 1. A 1952 dog tag 4K. 9 Valkyrie. 2. A Polaroid of Walter Harris as a young soldier with a brindle mastiff. 3. My wife's missing hospice bracelet. And 4. A child's drawing of Tucker captioned "My Soldier Dog" in Jake Wilson's handwriting. The kicker? The photo's date stamp placed it 2 years after Jake's death. Sergeant whined and nudged a 5th object I hadn't noticed. Tucker's original brass tag, now reading. If you're reading this, I've always been loved. Rain sheeted down as Ethan Parker stood on my porch at midnight, clutching a garden spade. We have to dig up Tucker. Right now. His pajamas were soaked. Jason's having the dream again, about the golden soldier dog at the gates. He says Tucker's trying to carry something across, but keeps dropping it. Lightning flashed as we reached the maple tree. The grave was disturbed. Fresh paw prints led to a shallow hole containing Jake Wilson's Little League trophy, Rusty's rabies tag, and a dog-eared copy of the Odyssey with a passage circled. No loyal soul ever truly crosses the river alone. The hospice volunteer insisted it was standard procedure. We photograph all therapy dog visits. But the image she emailed froze my screen. Tucker lying beside terminal patient Mr. Delaney in his final moments. Except, the timestamp was 6 months before I'd adopted him. And there, clear as day, Tucker's paw resting atop the man's wedding band, mirroring exactly how Sergeant now placed his paw on my hand during nightmares. The volunteer's follow-up email contained 17 nearly identical photos spanning decades, always with different dogs bearing Tucker's scars. The subject line, "Our Eternal Visitor." Attached was a 1943 telegram about a battlefield hospital dog who knew which soldiers wouldn't see dawn. Frank Wilson's trembling hands passed me the ancient recorder. Jake's last birthday message. For the dog. Static crackled, then a child's voice. "Hey Tucker, it's me." Sergeant's head whipped up so fast his tags jangled. Not recognition. Relief. He scrambled to the speaker, whimpering as the message continued. "I left your favorite ball under the maple like always. Come find me, okay." The date on the recorder? Yesterday. Frank paled. "That's impossible. This machine hasn't worked in years." Sergeant dropped into a perfect alert position by the door, tail wagging for the first time since adoption. Waiting. Like someone had finally said the magic words. Logan Wright's question hung in the art therapy room like smoke. Sergeant responded before I could, pressing his branded J scar against Logan's chest, right over his pacemaker scar. The boy gasped. "He says yes, but it's not called heaven." The aide moved to intervene, but Logan was already sketching furiously, a detailed battlefield with soldiers and dogs moving through mist toward a glowing maple tree. "It's called mustering ground," he whispered. "Where good soldiers rest until all their people are safe." Sergeant licked the boy's cheek once, then brought him Tucker's old therapy vest. The name tag now read, Logan's Guardian. EST 1952. The brass tags jingle on sharp turns, Tucker's military ID clinking against Sergeant's service chip. State troopers keep pulling me over, convinced the sound is a loose license plate. They always pause when reading the engraved dates. Asterisk Tucker, active duty 1952 to 2019. Sergeant, active duty 2001 dash. Asterisk last Tuesday, a young cop touched the tags like sacred relics. Sir, these can't be real. This span covers every major conflict since Korea. That night, I found Sergeant methodically licking both tags before placing them in Ethan's backpack. The next morning, Ethan's stutter vanished during his Veterans Day speech about the soldier dogs who never really leave their posts. The nightmare always starts the same, Tucker bleeding out in that storm drain. But last night, the dream changed. He stood whole under the maple tree, not alone but surrounded. A brindle mastiff, young Walter's Valkyrie, a golden retriever, Rusty in prime health, even a grinning boy in a Little League uniform. Tucker dropped a mud-cake ball at my feet. "New mission," Jake's voice explained without moving his lips. I woke to Sergeant shoving my shoes toward me with urgent whines. The clock read 3:17 a.m. The motion light was on. And through the window, clear as day, 3 sets of paw prints leading to the maple. Fresh. Waiting. Lisa met me in the shelter's basement with a crowbar. They told me to destroy these. The rusted cabinet yielded one singed manila folder. Inside, a 2015 intake photo of Tucker with no scars, taken 3 years before Jake's death. The behavioral notes made my hands shake. Asterisk, subject responds to commands not taught since World War II. Alerted to buried time capsule 73 yards from shelter. Refuses to answer to Tucker, insists name is Buddy. Asterisk, the final line was redacted except for asset clearly part of operation. Sergeant whined, pawing at the exact spot where Tucker's brand should have been, on a dog who hadn't been burned yet. Frank Wilson's final words clawed at my conscience as Dr. Brooks prepped Sergeant's routine dental. The moment she turned, Sergeant vomited up a microchip, not his own. The scanner revealed a 12-digit DoD code. The emergency vet we raced to whistled low. This is a tracker. Military grade. And look. His x-rays showed identical chips at every scar site. Someone's been monitoring this dog's pain responses. That's when Sergeant grabbed my wrist with terrifying gentleness and guided my fingers to his jugular, where a human thumbprint-sized lump pulsed. Not a chip. A tag. Engraved, if found, returned to mustering ground. Coordinates followed. The security camera caught everything. 3:17 a.m. A figure in a vet's coat picks the lock. Sergeant doesn't bark, he salutes. The intruder reaches for his collar, then freezes as Sergeant drops into a perfect, attack delay stance from Vietnam-era K-9 manuals. The figure flees, leaving behind a duffel bag containing 1. Tucker's original adoption paperwork, with my signature forged, 2. A syringe labeled Euthasol, and 3. A dossier titled Project Cerberus, Cross-Generational Canine Consciousness. The kicker? The surveillance timestamp read 24 hours before the break-in attempt. Sergeant just knows the file's cover photo, a Civil War medic tent with a familiar brindle dog watching over dying soldiers. The cemetery groundskeeper handed me the waterlogged envelope. Found it when the willow tree uprooted. Jake's childish scrawl read, to Tucker's next friend. Inside? A crayon map of the farm with X's at 3 spots. 1. The doghouse. 2. The maple tree. And 3. My future backyard. The note explained, Tucker's not like other dogs. He told me in dreams he's been lots of soldiers' dogs. Says his mission is to guard special people until they find each other. Don't be sad when he leaves. He's just going to help another kid like me. P.S. Look under. The rest was illegible. Sergeant was already digging where the willow's roots had been. The footage is barely 3 seconds. Sergeant standing alert at the window as the motion light activates. But it's what happens between frames that haunts me. At 2 hours, empty yard. 2 hours and 1 second, Sergeant's reflection shows Tucker beside him. 2 hours and 2 seconds, both dogs' heads snap towards something off camera. 2 hours and 3 seconds, only Sergeant remains, holding Jake's rotting baseball glove that hadn't been in the house for weeks. The metadata revealed the impossible. This footage was recorded the night before Tucker died. When I replayed it, Sergeant barked once at the exact millisecond the reflection appeared. A trained alert for confirmed contact. The rescue beagle mix shouldn't know any of this. Yet every night at 9:47 p.m., he drags Tucker's old blanket to form a perfect triangle. He refuses to eat unless his bowl sits where Sergeant's tags make shadow patterns at noon. The vet called it learned behavior. Then we witnessed the clincher, the pup standing hind-legged to tap 3 times on Rusty's photo, exactly where the hidden wall-safe combination was. Inside? A 1940s dog tag for Buddy, a Vietnam-era service medal, and a modern microchip reader displaying one word, roundabout. The pup immediately assumed Tucker's alert position by the maple tree, where the ground was inexplicably warm again. The ribbon-cutting ceremony should have been joyful. But when they unveiled the Tucker's Heroes plaque, every therapy dog in attendance, 47 in total, suddenly sat at attention facing the maple tree. The Doberman from Unit 3 began vocalizing in perfect cadence, 3 barks, 2 whines, 1 howl. Sergeant responded by digging up a time-worn Zippo lighter engraved asterisk to Valkyrie, see you at mustering ground. Walt, Korea 53. Asterisk, the program director quietly pocketed it with shaking hands. My grandfather. He told me about this. The night before he died, he dreamed of a golden dog leading a whole pack of warriors home. Lisa's text included the shelter's first-ever empty kennel photo with a shocking caption, 48 adopted in 48 hours after your news segment. But the security footage told the real story. Each senior dog had woken at 3:17 a.m. to methodically scratch at their doors in unison. The adopted dogs now exhibit eerie patterns, all digging identical triangular beds, all refusing treats unless they alert first, all responding to the name Buddy as backup. The most chilling report? A blind collie in Wisconsin who led her new owner to a buried World War II dog tag, despite having no possible knowledge of its existence. Grief hits at random, folding Tucker's old blanket, catching Sergeant's identical head tilt. That's when the signs appear. The thermostat jumping to 71.7 degrees Fahrenheit, Tucker's body temp. The motion light flickering in threes, his alert signal. The unmistakable pressure of a muzzle against my palm with no dog present. Last Tuesday, Sergeant brought me a rain-soaked baseball from the maple tree. Impossible, since we'd removed all sports equipment months ago. The stitching was pristine except for 4 teeth marks matching Tucker's dental records. The timestamp on my security camera? Scheduled to record next Thursday. The footage already exists. The vet's office smells the same. The maple leaves crunch the same. But this time, I'm prepared when Sergeant presses his forehead to mine and exhales that familiar sigh. I don't beg him to stay. Don't sob until my ribs crack. Just whisper, "Go find Jake." His tail wags once, the way Tucker's did at the end. The way Valkyrie's did in Walter's letters. The way countless good soldiers' dogs have done since wars began. The monitor flatlines at 3:17 a.m. precisely. Outside, every dog in the neighborhood howls in perfect unison. And when the nurse hands me his tags, the brass is already warm, already engraved. If you're reading this, love never leaves. The next morning, a stray puppy with one cloudy eye sits waiting by the maple tree. He's holding Sergeant's favorite toy in his mouth. The toy we buried with Tucker.